Breaking news from the stadium tonight as an anonymous fan foot the bill for 55,000 hot dogs, bringing that sweet tubed meat to everyone in attendance.
Free dogs! Yeah!
55,000 hot dogs? What does that even cost?
While the identity of this Frankfurter philanthropist remains anonymous, their all-beefy generosity will go down in history.
The new Mega Millions. More to win means more to give. How you spend it is up to you. Yeah!
For game odds and details, visit sceducationlottery.com.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer not coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city. We got a fantastic spot here at the Ameristar Casino Resort in Council Bluffs, Iowa, just across the river from Omaha. And that's where we will be as long as the Tigers are in Omaha for the College World Series. Jacob Beck and Cassie Sally are back there on the ones and twos in Baton Rouge, and we are fired up to be with you. Our Friday show is always brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp, and we got tons to do over the next 2 hours from Omaha. In 15 minutes, as we always do, we'll talk to Preston Guy about the LSU football Tigers. Got a big commit yesterday, and recruiting full steam ahead over the next couple of weeks. Joe Healy is in Omaha. He is at Charles Schwab Field. We'll talk to him at 1:30 about the entire tournament, and specifically LSU and Arkansas, the two SEC teams that are here in the field, the two teams that will match up tomorrow night in front of what should be an incredible crowd at Charles Schwab Field. Andrew Ellis covers Arkansas for Inside Arkansas, host of the Bombastic podcast. He's going to be with us at 2 o'clock, and I've got lots and lots and lots to do over the next 2 hours. So lock us in. I'm fired up to be here. Let's start the same way we start every day. That is with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
All right, let's get rolling here. I am fired up to be here, y'all. It all kind of sinks in when you land at Epley and you drive in, and I came to the Ameristar, set my things down, and went over to Charles Schwab Field for press conferences, and I saw the Arkansas players practicing in the tunnel, was at their press conference, saw the LSU guys out there practicing, was at their press conference, and took some time to walk around the stadium and just kind of take it all in. I'm lucky to have been here for 3 times previous to this. This is my 4th time. And it's just a special place. It's a special event. And, of course, yesterday was the calm before the storm. There wasn't a lot going on outside of Charles Schwab Field. There were some fans there. There were a few filing into Rocco's. I think LSU registered about 550 Jell-O shots yesterday. I know that Jared Jones's dad had a couple of those over there at Rocco's. And I walked around, actually stumbled into a putt-putt bar after my work was done yesterday. Played a little mini golf and got a couple of cold beers. And it's just the setting, the energy, the area around, I love. I think it is fantastic. And you could see the smiles on the players' faces in the press conferences, the questions that they were getting. You could see the smiles on the coaches' faces because they're not under the gun right just yet, other than the 2 guys who just started Arizona and Coastal Carolina. It was just a festive environment. And that's really been the case for LSU since they got here. The players arrived on Wednesday. They got to the airport, got in a bus, and went straight to the field. Got to the field, walked around the outfield, took pictures, kind of soaked in the environment. And then Jay Johnson, as they always do, took the whole team to a steakhouse. They do that every single postseason weekend. Hoover, regional, super regional, Omaha, even championship series. If you advance in one stage of the tournament, Jay Johnson takes his team to get a steak. So they went and got a steak on Wednesday night. Kind of a lighthearted workout yesterday. Everybody got an hour and 15 minutes on the field, took a little bit of BP, kind of saw how the wind blows. They had to do their ESPN ESPN obligations where they go in and do all the videos that you'll see when they go to commercial break. They're in uniform and they're swinging the bats or flexing or whatever they do, and they did the press conference. And so yesterday, kind of a lighthearted day, and then they go to the opening ceremonies last night, and then today you either play or you lock in for a practice. LSU had practice about 2 hours ago here in Omaha, and now it's time to play. And I thought the press conference yesterday was interesting on a couple of levels. I'll give you kind of my two main takeaways from the presser. The first was that Dave Van Horn did announce that Zach Root is going to start for Arkansas. Jay Johnson did not announce a starting pitcher yesterday. He was not asked for a starting pitcher yesterday. I think the Baton Rouge media and the local media around LSU is seasoned enough to where they're not going to ask that question because I feel like they know the answer. I will tell you that Cade Anderson got a question about facing Arkansas and kind of it head on and didn't deflect or do anything. So I think the fact that Anderson was there and the fact that he answered that question would suggest that he's going to pitch. I'll talk a little bit now or two about that quote-unquote decision if you think there is one. But Zach Root is going to get the ball for Arkansas, and it feels like LSU is going to counter with Cade Anderson, who pitched Saturday of last week. Ianson pitched Sunday of last week. The other takeaway from the press conference, not necessarily a big story in Baton Rouge and not something I wrote about for LouisianaSports.net, but it was cool. Cam Koziel is on the right side of Arkansas's infield. He plays second base, and he is from Omaha. And he's been he was the City Player of the Year and been a big story in Omaha throughout his high school career. Decided to go to Arkansas, really with one thing on his mind is to getting back to Omaha. But his background isn't just, he's from Omaha and that's where they play the College World Series. His dad was employed at Rosenblatt and was on the grounds crew, and they've got a farm just outside the city. And on that farm, they built a baseball field and put the Rosenblatt stuff out where the field is. And he's got a very deep tie to Rosenblatt and to Omaha. His dad, apparently, every time they drive by the old site of Rosenblatt, says "Viva la Rosenblatt" is what he told us yesterday. And so this is like a real full circle moment for him, as someone who quite literally grew up at Rosenblatt Stadium, and then as the tournament moved over to Charles Schwab when he was under 10 years old, has been invested in the College World Series, and he'll get a chance to play on that stage in tomorrow's game. So that's not something that I wrote about, not something we're going to play clips from, because I don't think a ton of you know who Cam Koziel is or really care too much about that story, but it was something that I thought was interesting. My story that I did write at LouisianaSports.net from the press conference, and it was based on the questions that I asked of Dave Van Horn, of Jay Johnson, and of Jared Jones, was about the ballpark and the way that it plays. There's no argument for the 2013 College World Series. None. You can't have a College World Series where in totality there are 3 home runs hit, and the champion does not hit a single home run in the College World Series. That's a joke. And that was the reason I think that most people don't like Charles Schwab Field if they don't. The early returns on it were terrible because you play one brand of baseball the entire year, and then you went to this ballpark and it didn't play like anything that anyone had experienced. And that's because they had the BB Core bats and the balls were pretty dead, and the stadium sits down by the river and the wind blows in a lot, and you couldn't hit the ball out of the ballpark. That's part of baseball. And it doesn't have to be as integral as it was at Rosenblatt, where everybody was hitting 5 home runs in every game. But it's got to be an element of the game, right? And I think that they have fixed that over the last 10 years. Home runs reached a high last year of 37. There were 35 hit when LSU won the national championship a couple of years ago. If you remember, in the championship series, Florida went nuts on that Sunday, and LSU went nuts on Monday, and there were 12 home runs hit in those 2 games. So I think that it does play pretty fair. I think it's a great stage, and I think it's a pretty good ballpark, quite frankly, and I love the environment that comes around it. But I wanted to ask the coaches, because Dave Van Horn's now been here 4 times. He's been to this stadium now 6 times. Has been to, and Jay Johnson, this is his 4th time here. And I wanted to ask them kind of what they've learned about the ballpark, how it plays, how you manage your team in the stadium, and maybe more importantly, do you think about this place when you build a team? Because, I hear oftentimes college basketball coaches say that they struggle with the sight lines in those huge football stadiums when they get to the Final Four, right? Because you don't deal with that all year, and you've got to try to adjust to it. But it changes every year where they play that. This is the same every year. In baseball, the dimensions and the elements are unique ballpark to ballpark. Basketball court's the same. Goal's 10 feet. Football field's 100 yards long, 52 yards wide. Like, baseball changes. But this is the place that you have to win in to climb the mountaintop every year. And so I asked Dave Van Horn and Jay Johnson about that, if they think about that when they build their teams. And both guys gave almost identical answers, like almost exactly the same. Dave Van Horn said, look, you got to win in your league first. And that's the most important thing to get to this point. And Jay Johnson said, well, it's not like any ballparks we play in the SEC, but it would be short-sighted to just think about Omaha when you build a team. Like, it was almost the exact same answer from both of them. And then they said, but you got to be able to do a lot of different things when you get here. And so you have to build a well-rounded team. And Dave Van Horn felt like his team is very good in that respect. And Jay Johnson said that little thing, said, look, we can hit the ball to the ballpark. We can move the baseball. We can play in the bunt game. We can situational hit. Like, we think we're good at all that. So they basically gave the exact same answer. But I thought what was really interesting was I talked to Jerry Jones about his at-bats and whether or not he thinks about the weather and he thinks about the ballpark he's in. And he said yes. And I thought that was a very candid answer, and I thought that was an interesting answer because he's watched from the dugout as his teammates play in this ballpark. And if you remember back, in the middle of the week when LSU played Wake Forest and Tennessee in the losers bracket game against Tennessee, and then in the first game against Wake Forest, the ball wasn't flying. Nate Ackenhausen went 6 shutout innings, and LSU beat Tennessee 5-0. Nobody hit a home run. And then the next day, you had that incredible ball game, and LSU wins behind a bullpen day. And the ball wasn't flying. And then you had Skeens and Louder, and nobody was going to get a hit in that game. That was the pitching. White finally got a home run late in that game. And then after that period of no offense in the middle of that week, you got to the championship series, and the ball was really jumping. And he's seen that. And he said, yeah, I mean, you got to pay attention to that kind of thing, but really you got to control the strike zone first and foremost, and hardline drives always play. But it's this ballpark is a storyline because a lot of college baseball parks are small. Like, I can name you teams like Wake Forest, like Georgia, like Tennessee, like Coastal Carolina that play in tiny offensive ballparks. Then you've got yards like Dish Falk in Texas that are very big. You've got yards like Alec Box. I agree with Jay Johnson. The Box kind of plays the most fair. I think the first 6-7 weeks it's kind of tough to hit there, and then generally speaking the wind turns around and it becomes a pretty offensive friendly ballpark. But I think it plays pretty fair. But then everybody's got to come here. And I think my opinion is that the ballpark does play fairly now. It did not. It does now. And I think it provides an incredible stage for college baseball, both around the ballpark with the great environment that they've created here in Omaha, and then with what the play is on the field. I think it's really, really cool. So great for me personally to get back to Omaha, to walk around, to see the bars and restaurants that I've been to kind of bring back those memories from 2 years ago when I was here for the championship series. And I know that it's interesting to talk to people. I just ran into a family of LSU fans that are here from Gretna that have never been here before. Buddy of mine who's never been just texted me, just left Barrett's where he got some lunch and a cold beer. And look, I just got a text from a buddy who was here that I ran into after the game when they won in 2023 that's on the flight up here. And I know that there are going to be a ton of Tiger fans that make the journey up to Omaha. If you're listening to us en route to Omaha, be careful and safe, whether you're flying or you're taking the long trip from Louisiana. Get here safely and enjoy the festivities. If you're hanging out at home for this College World Series and watching on TV and listening to us every day, certainly appreciate that. And we will be here as long as the Tigers are. If LSU's 2-0, I'll fly home on Tuesday. If LSU wins the national championship in Game 3, I'll fly home the next Tuesday. That's when my flight's booked for right now. Incidentally, it's at like 5:30 in the morning. So maybe that's a really happy 5:30 in the morning for me, but it'll be a good problem to have if we get there, right? So I'm set up here at the Ameristar Casino and Resort. I'm right outside the sports book. I'm in heaven here. College World Series is on one TV. The U.S. Open is on another TV. If you're looking for things to do as you come up to Omaha, want to spend an evening coming over here They've got a phenomenal steakhouse in the resort. They've got a great gaming floor, and they've got a sports book right here with all the College World Series odds and all on TV. They've also got the U.S. Open on as well. I've got all the odds right here at the ESPN Bet Sportsbook for the College World Series, and we're going to talk about the other matchups as we move forward in the show. So we've kicked things off. Let's keep it rolling. We'll talk Preston Guy. Tigers got a big football commitment yesterday. We'll tell you about it coming up next.
Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. Funny thing about being fast, you end up waiting a lot. First to show up, first in line, then just waiting. Me, I rev up Chumba Casino. With over 200 social casino games, no slow lanes here. Why sit around when you can spin? I'm already racing. Your turn. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, you could go big time on a fancy water bottle with ultra titanium alloy metal. You're not sure why you need all that. I mean, it just holds water. But you're getting it anyway. Because if you're hiking near an active volcano and you accidentally drop the bottle into molten lava, your water will still be icy cold. Switch to Progressive and you could save big time for water bottles. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
The Hunt Palmer Show. Live from Omaha, powered by Our Lady of the Lake, Championship Health for everybody, and presented by GoFlow Ivy Spa and Yingling Flight. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Look, I know a lot of y'all are going to have some watch parties at the house tomorrow night for LSU and Arkansas, 6 o'clock start time from Charles Schwab Field. If you got a big crew coming over to eat some food and watch the game, no better spot than Corks to go pick up a big tray of those jumbo Gulf shrimp, crispy fried catfish, shoestring fries. If you got a crew, call Corks. They can always help you out with that. Maybe you just got a Hester-sized family and need to feed 100 people that are under your roof all the time. Corks can help with that as well. Check them out online, corksfishandshrimp.com, corksfishandshrimp.com. We are here at the Ameristar in Council Bluffs, Iowa, just across the river from Omaha, Nebraska, and the College World Series is underway, a rematch of the 2016 final between Arizona and Coastal Carolina. I won't say that with an earshot of Jay Johnson. Some bad memories there as Coastal went on to win that national championship. But they are underway from across the river. I'm going to go check out the nightcap tonight between Oregon State and Louisville. I'll talk about that a little bit later on today. All right, let's go talk some football. Preston Guy, TigerBait.com, gives us some time each and every Friday, does now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Preston, I got a bone to pick with the football program here. I'm in a press conference at Charles Schwab Field. I'm trying to cover the College World Series, write some stories about weather and ballparks and such, and we're getting football commitments in the middle of all that I got to go right on a beautiful day in Omaha. But it sounds like good news for LSU, no?
Hey, look, he's a big kid now. He is a Mississippi kid. That's bad news. Not that there's anything wrong with Mississippi, but there's always some funny stuff going on. But you got a good one out of New Albany, Emmanuel Tucker. And this offensive line class for this 26th group, they look good. I mean, this is a deep class. They're going to keep on going with guys like Emmanuel Iheanacho. They're still going after him. So keep an eye out.
I certainly will, and I think my confidence level in Brad Davis as a recruiter, as a developer, is very high. But I understand LSU fans' trepidation because of the inability to run the ball the last couple of years, and that's something we've talked about a lot. But if we can just kind of siphon that part off and just go towards recruiting in terms of the talent that he's bringing in, the numbers that he's bringing in, and what those guys kind of look like as they move through, what's your assessment of Brad Davis's position group as a whole?
Well, it certainly has the talent, numbers, size, star power that you're looking for here. But, remember, and Brad Davis, he's had a 4-year tenure at LSU. And ultimately, because if you remember 2021 as well, although that 2021 group, they came on toward the end of the year. Remember how they were laughably bad at the beginning of the year. You haven't really had an offensive line that's, forged the way consistently, because they had Tyrion Davis-Price broke the rushing record against Florida, but outside of that, they hadn't really consistently paved the way for a running back yet. So I don't have any questions that the bodies are there. In spring, I think that lineup we saw during spring is not going to be close to the lineup we get during fall. The more I poke feelers around, the more I get confidence that they didn't bring in Braylon Moore to come be the backup center. You know what I mean? And he's not leaving Virginia Tech, where he's a starter and a good one too, to just come be the backup here at LSU. So I think they definitely have the guys here, but I do think it is time that Brad Davis puts together an offensive line that can actually open up holes in the running lane.
We talked about June being a big month in terms of visitors, camps, all that in this recruiting cycle. You guys at Tiger Bait had a great list and recaps of the visits last weekend, and there's another crew that's coming in this weekend. Can you kind of set the stage, one, for what we saw last weekend and what's coming up this weekend as far as recruiting goes?
Yeah, look, it's going to be another big weekend. Lots of kids on campus here. It's been big, though. Every weekend they're just having tons of kids on campus. I tell you, Tristan Keys is going to be a big one. I don't think he'll be here this weekend, but next. Okay, this weekend they're set to. Let's see here. You got J.J. Bush, 7 Cloud. That's a Georgia commit. Darius Gray, DeAnthony Lafayette. It's a very large list of kids that they're going to be bringing in. And then next weekend, that doesn't slow down with Blaine Bradford coming to town. I already mentioned Tristan Keys, which that's going to be huge because his team was at LSU 7-on-7 camp, but he didn't make it last weekend. So to get him back for an OB, that's going to be huge. Booby Feaster, Lamar Brown. This weekend is going to be a lot of kids. It's going to be the next weekend after that where you're going to start seeing more and more names where you're like, oh, that's a big – you got to get Lamar Brown. Oh, you got to get, Tristan Keys on campus.
And then you mentioned Blaine Bradford. Do you close the book on that recruitment, or do you think LSU is still going to keep knocking on that door and maybe eventually walk in?
I don't know if they walk in, but they're going to keep on banging on that door.
Yeah.
He's, one of the best safeties in the country, and he's right there in your backyard, and for some reason, he's committed to Ohio State, and you need to work on that because you don't want a kid that good going across the country when he could stay in your own backyard, especially when LSU is doing everything they can to hold on to that DBU moniker right now. You got to start getting some good kids there, but they're going to continue working on him. I don't know that he's shutting. He's certainly not shutting LSU out at this point. The fact that he is taking an official visit, in 10 days, that shows that at least you still, are on his radar.
Yeah, no question about it. It's when Nick Saban was at Alabama and you saw some kids that would go to Tuscaloosa, as disappointing as it generally was, it was never stunning to see a Louisiana kid go to Alabama because of the role that they were on. And Ohio State is phenomenal. They're obviously the defending national champions, but Louisiana kids have not made that decision. Every recruitment is a little bit different, but did it surprise you when he pulled the trigger and decided to commit to Ohio State?
Yeah, it did, and especially as early as that, because a lot of times these highly, highly recruited kids, when they end up leaving LSU, they don't want to do it that early because they don't want to, have their entire senior year be harassed by LSU fans, But, hey, bold move for him to pull that trigger. We'll see if LSU can change his mind during that time. But, think about, Landon Collins. He waits till January after he's already graduated to announce it, And, that's just historically – these kids, the high-profile ones, have always waited much later. So we will certainly. Let's put it like this: I certainly hope the kid can still enjoy his senior year either way.
No doubt, and I'm sure that he will. Look, it's not as if he committed to some some tiny little school that doesn't win anything. That's a pretty prestigious program that he's committed to. We'll see if LSU can make some inroads there. The last guy I wanted you to talk about a little bit, and some familiar name to every LSU fan, is Colton Nussmeier. On campus yesterday, Doug Nussmeier had drove over from Saints camp. Garrett was obviously there, being the starting quarterback at LSU. Where do you think that one ends up, and do you know anything?
The entire Nuss bus was there yesterday. You know,
they were.
The big brother and the little brother. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I think Joe Sloan has an interesting dilemma with the quarterback situation. We've talked about Bo Bentley. We're in 26 so much, and I don't think anybody really knows what the backup plan for 26 is if you don't get Bo Bentley, right? But then you've got Nussmeier, and I'll tell you what, I got to film and see two other very, very talented quarterbacks in the 27 group last week, and that's Pop Houston and Elijah Haven, who I got to talk to both. And it seems like LSU's doing a great job recruiting all three of those kids. It's just you got to go out there and determine which one's better. Colton Nussmeier's a lefty, but he's got a cannon on him. He might be. It looks like he's an inch taller than Garrett. And, you know, you've got that family legacy tie-in there. Elijah Haven's probably the highest recruited of the bunch. He's every bit of 6'5", and probably has the most physical tools of them. But I'm going to tell you the best high school quarterback of the group. Now, I don't know if this projects into college, but the best high school quarterback, that's Peyton Houston out of Evangel. The kid is an absolute beast of great decision-making. It's just the height. The height is going to be the thing you hear about. I mean, he's legitimately 5'10", so you know you have to sit there and wonder if he's got the size to play in the SEC. So, yep, no, I mean I think they're doing a great job with all three recruiting them. I think they just need to decide which one they're going to pull the trigger on, or if maybe they bring in two. We'll see.
Crazy time in the recruiting world. Summer always is. They've got you covered over at tigerbait.com. Preston does an awesome job with Mike Scarborough and the team over there, and we appreciate a little bit of time on this Friday. Have a great weekend, man. Thanks.
All right, hon. Talk to you soon.
Preston Guy, tigerbait.com. I love the Gambler. I'm right here outside the sportsbook here in the Ameristar, and just had a guy, Kyrie, that just came over, and he said, you know about this baseball? I was like, I'm covering it. I know a little bit about it. He goes, I got Western Carolina -2. Is that okay? I said, oh, man, I think you're thinking about Coastal Carolina. And it's just, there are just people that are kind of wired like that. Like, he clearly has no idea who he's betting on, but he's just needed to get action down because it's there. I'm fascinated by point spreads. I just don't like watching games with my dollars. I would rather just watch it without the dollars, so I don't ever bet. But I like watching point spreads, and I think it's interesting to cover the whole deal. But yeah, like my guy Kyrie, like he didn't really care. He just wanted to get some cash down, so he did on Coastal Carolina -2. I'll keep you posted on that score from across the river at Charles Schwab Field. Joe Healy will join us coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, you could go big time on a fancy water bottle with ultra titanium alloy metal. You're not sure why you need all that. I mean, it just holds water. But you're getting it anyway. Because if you're hiking near an active volcano and you accidentally drop the bottle into molten lava, your water will still be icy cold. Switch to Progressive and you could save big time for water bottles. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Every car that's on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. If you're listening to me right now, there's a pretty good chance you've never gotten behind the wheel of a Genesis. It's because, statistically speaking, it's a fairly new brand in the car world, and so most of you haven't gotten behind the wheel. How about changing that? Just out of curiosity, go drive one. Stop by Airline at Piku, or don't. They'll come to you. contact them at genesisbatonrouge.com. Say, hey, I'd like to test drive either sedan, SUV, whatever your car of choice or your family situation is, and just let them bring the car to you and get behind the wheel. You'll see the difference. It's a luxury vehicle. It's a luxury experience at a reasonable price. As I mentioned, they're at Airline at Pico, just across from Women's Hospital. And you can check out the entire inventory online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. That's genesisofbatonrouge.com.
Live from Omaha, powered by Our Lady of the Lake, Championship Health for everybody. And presented by GoFlow Ivy Spa and Yingling Flight. This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Back here at the Ameristar, Council Bluffs, Iowa, just across the river from Omaha, Nebraska. College World Series here in Omaha for the 75th consecutive year. LSU and Arkansas tomorrow, 6 o'clock game. First game underway, Arizona and Coastal Carolina. We're going to talk about all of it here over the next 90 minutes. Our pleasure to welcome Joe Healy to the show. He is here in Omaha, assuming at Charles Schwab Field. Usually joins us on Thursdays. I was traveling, good enough to give us some time on this Friday. Joe, thanks for the time. How are you?
Doing pretty well. I can confirm in the press box at Charles Schwab Field, so I've made it. Anytime you end this you end the season in Omaha is a good end to the season.
For sure. You get to do it a little bit more than LSU fans. This is right. 20 out of 40, so that's a pretty good run for the Tigers. And nice production value on the pregame show. Y'all were in the chairs on the concourse. I very much enjoyed that watch this morning, the whole D1 baseball crew, and enjoyed a lot of the content there. Let's just start up front. Y'all picked who you thought would get through this, and you have the same pick I do, which is Arkansas. That's who LSU opens with. Give me a feel why.
I just think that their best has been better than anybody else's best this season, right? I mean, and in the year when no one in the SEC was really that consistent, it felt like they were the most consistent. We saw their best more often than we saw anybody else. So that's really the biggest reason. And then beyond that, it's just, look, it's a tough matchup when those two teams are going to face off here tomorrow night. But, if there's somebody who can go toe to toe with Kane Anderson in this field that's not his teammate in Anthony Einstein, it's Zach Rude, especially with the way he pitched last weekend. So when that first game is important as it is, and we know that it is, if you want to win this whole thing, he's a guy that can go toe-to-toe with anybody in the country, and especially if that heavy sinker is working, keep the ball on the ground. I think you've got a good chance to win there. I don't love that my pick is having to deal with, probably the second-best team in the field right away. Don't love that, but, I'm going to continue to ride with them because when they were on, they're just so scary.
I go back to last week, and I know that you certainly watched the game and broke it down, but they just really put up good at bat over good at bat against Liam Doyle. Do you think there's a parallel between Anderson and Doyle other than that they're left-handed, and does that give you some confidence in Arkansas tomorrow, or is that just two completely different situations?
No, I think it's fair because it's two guys that are kind of doing a similar thing. The stuff's a little bit different. Doyle obviously has the fastball that is just on another planet, and I think Anderson's secondary stuff is better than Doyle's, but so there's some differences, but I think there are some similarities in terms of they're trying to do the same thing. Like it's two guys that are going to try to throw a ton of strikes, but they're also, they're going to work some counts because they're looking for punch outs. They don't want the ball in play. So I think there is some of that, if Arkansas is just willing to, hey, we're going to have to be comfortable hitting with two strikes. We're going to have to be comfortable being in 2-2, 3-2 counts and then working it from there, which is kind of what we saw in the Tennessee series. I do think they can get to him. I think that is a valid thing to bring up. But, man, it's just kind of hard to imagine that they would get Doyle and Anderson in 2 straight weeks because that's just not how college baseball works. But, yeah, it could be on the menu if they are able to replicate that.
Another key for you with LSU and Arkansas, I want to talk about some of the other games in the field, but is there another key that you've kind of considered as you've broken this thing down?
Yeah, I just think it's, both teams have really quality bullpens, and this is really overly simplistic, but, you see it so often. Guys get here that have been really, really good all season long, and they step on the mound out here, and it's just different. And they can't tell you exactly why, and they can't tell you exactly how it went wrong or what have you, but it is just different when you get on this mound. And so is one of the bullpens a little bit better in those high leverage moments than the other? I think that's because the quality is not in question for either team. It's just going to be a matter of meeting the moment for those two bullpens.
Do you expect to see Gabe Gackle first out of the Arkansas pen on Saturday, whenever that is?
Yeah, I think so. When you've got the bullet to fire that's as good as that one, I think you kind of have to. Now, I have theorized a little bit about the idea of maybe you get cute, and if you have a comfortable lead somehow, or what have you, maybe you go somewhere else. But I've had enough people tell me that no, I just think you gotta go straight to Gackle. But I think I've come off that point. So yeah, I think we'll probably see Gackle come out first. And honestly, it's hard to argue. If you can cover an entire game with Root and Gackle, why wouldn't you?
LSU 2 trips in a row has come through the losers bracket to reach the final. They came through Oregon State in 2017. It was a juggernaut. They came through Wake Forest 2 years ago. But that was after losing the second game in Omaha. Do you feel like either of these two teams, LSU or Arkansas, because you said they're maybe the two best teams, is equipped to come back after a loss on Saturday?
I think either could. The question is going to be, how much it comes down to third starters, right? Because that to me is the biggest difference between, losing early here and then staying on the right side of the bracket, is that you can kind of get away with 2 starters all the way through if you stay on the good side of things. But the minute you lose a game, you start to have to look at a third starter. It's how much do you trust that guy? Now, again, the quality is really not in question with the pitchers they would go to there, but it's just, it's just the consistency, right? I do like, the depth of the Arkansas bullpen. It feels like maybe they have more guys they trust right now than LSU does from a bullpen standpoint. So I might lean that direction, but honestly, either could. And I think part of that too is, let's be honest. I mean, they're on the side of the bracket with Murray and UCLA, and those are 2 very different teams. But I think they're also just both teams that LSU and Arkansas can handle, even maybe playing their B+ baseball. And so I think that's also part of this, that you feel pretty good with a third starter against UCLA or Murray, and you put yourself in situations to be competitive if you come back up against Arkansas, LSU, whoever it is.
I feel like I've got a pretty good read on Murray. I don't think my read on UCLA is good at all. I looked back at their box scores, and in the regional, they sent their top 2 arms out there in the first 2 games. Neither recorded a strikeout, and they still managed to get through. That's kind of foreign to me, watching SEC baseball every week where guys are all throwing 97 and striking everybody out. But what do you make of UCLA's pitching staff, being that they don't strike very many teams out, but their numbers are pretty good?
Yeah, I get the feeling that it's either going to work extremely well here or not well at all. And it really comes down to 2 things. One is, how is the ballpark playing? And if it's playing big, I think that's a way to go. I mean, you're just going to throw a ton of strikes and put the ball in play, and then trust that you're not going to get beat by the home run. And so that could work well. But if the ballpark's not playing big, that becomes problematic. And then also, if you're just not locating, I mean, if you're working an 89-mile-an-hour 2-seamer, you better make sure that thing is in the right spot. Because with hitters these days, I don't care what conference you're in, college baseball in 2025, 89 not located well is going to get hammered. And so there's a couple factors there. But they do have to pitch, emphasis on pitch. Like, they're not throwers, they are pitchers. And one thing they've done differently, though, that I will say, I give UCLA credit, John Savage just kind of changed the way he approaches pitching. He used to be very regimented, 3 starters, a 7th-inning guy, an 8th-inning guy, a 9th-inning guy. And I think he's, A, evolved, and B, realized that his pitching staff isn't built that way. So kudos to him. Like, he's now more what we see in the rest of college baseball, which is, look, the guys I trust are going to come in early, and whether that's the 3rd, the 5th, or the 7th, we're going to the same guy, kind of regardless of scenario. So they have evolved a little bit in that regard. And, Rock Chalowski might be the best player on the field here, their shortstop. So, it'd be fun to see him because, frankly, just because of the Big Ten of it all and the West Coast of it all, I just haven't seen that much of him, honestly.
He's a superstar. The statistics are awesome. Then you turn on the YouTube videos, and you can see it offensively and defensively. He is a star. Murray, 4th 4 seed to get here. You had Fresno State, obviously. You had Oral Roberts a few years ago, and the other Stony Brook came through Baton Rouge. Can't forget that one. But I heard Aaron Fitt on y'all's preview say this is not like those 2 teams. This is a team it's a threat. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, I think a threat is a good way to put it, just because I think, they've done enough this season that you kind of have to respect the idea that, they're at least going to score some runs on you and make you have to respond. Now, we've also seen these Cinderella stories. They get here and just kind of, flame out, and it just doesn't go well. So that's also on the menu. But I think the thing with Murray, and I've talked to some scouts and some other coaches about them this week, is just that, look, obviously they're under-talented relative to the rest of the field here. But the one thing they actually do better than pretty much any other team here is that they just don't swing and miss. I mean, they're willing to take some pitchers' pitches, but if they swing, it's because they're confident they can hit the ball in the gap and do damage with it. So, you're going to have good stuff. You're going to have to locate against them. If you're too much in the strike zone, it doesn't matter how hard you throw it or how sharp your stuff is. If it's middle, they are going to hammer it. So, credit's been there. And, everybody says, they might run out of pitching. Well, they kind of already have. Their ERA in the postseason, I think, is above 9, and it just hasn't mattered. So, like, it's not even like they're really getting away with anything on the mound. It's just that they've been able to score their way out of it.
No doubt about it. I saw starting pitchers postseason ERAs, and they're all over 6. I was like, well, that's quite a run to go on. Good job swinging the bats, boys. You got a sense on the 4 teams that play today and who you feel like is going to come out of that bracket?
Yeah, I really like Coastal, and it's not just because I'm sitting here watching them go up 2-0 and still pressuring. But, you know, their starting rotation is one that most SEC teams not called Arkansas, LSU, and Tennessee, like, would probably trade their rotation straight up for. Like, it's 2 guys in Flukie and Morrison that are real pros, have a chance to be big leaguers, and a guy in Riley Eichhoff who's just a classic 5th-year senior college pitcher who's going to fill up the zone and knows how to use his repertoire. And everybody needs a guy like that. And you combine that with the fact that, you know, talking to a scout at the Sun Belt tournament, just said, hey, this is a team that takes everything. It's their first to third on every single, second to home on every single. They tag up on all their fly balls. They get great dirt ball read. They just don't give you opportunity. If you're going to beat them, you're going to have to beat them. They're not really going to give you a window to come in and play C-plus baseball and beat them. So I think that's just huge. And in this side of the bracket where it feels like 4 teams that could come out of it, I'm going to lean on that pitching talent and that the fact that they're just not a team that's going to beat themselves.
Best time of the year. It's the College World Series here in Omaha. A great time to go over to D1Baseball.com. Check out that SEC Extra package. Joe's got you covered as long as the Tigers are here and beyond if they go home a little bit early. Good enough to give us some time here on this Friday. Get back to the baseball, Joe. I may see you up there tonight.
All right, see you, buddy.
Joe Healy, D1 Baseball's SEC Extra team. We'll come back and close out the hour next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Look, obviously, when you think renovation, you think huge scale, you think lots of dollars, and sometimes that's the case. Like, sometimes you got a big project, and David Duvall's happy to help you with that, whether it's bathrooms or closets or both. But sometimes it's just something simple like a tub-to-shower conversion, where you got an old, dingy bathtub, you don't ever use it, it doesn't serve a purpose. All you do is take showers. Well, put a shower in. Put in a gorgeous glass walk-in shower. Change the aesthetic of your bathroom. Change the functionality of your bathroom. And add some value to your home. Tub-to-shower conversions do not have to be incredibly time-inclusive. They don't have to be invasive as far as workers in your home all the time. They don't have to be massively expensive. And they can make a big difference. So contact David Duvall and his team at OneBathAndClosets.com. And start your process with that free consultation today. Just talk to David about what you'd like to do. He's happy to help. It's David Duvall and One Bath and Closets. You can find him online at OneBathAndClosets.com.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, you could go big time on a fancy water bottle with ultra titanium alloy metal. You're not sure why you need all that. I mean, it just holds water. But you're getting it anyway. Because if you're hiking near an active volcano and you accidentally drop the bottle into molten lava, your water will still be icy cold. Switch to Progressive and you could save big time for water bottles. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
Live from Omaha, powered by Our Lady of the Lake, Championship Health for everybody. And presented by GoFlow Ivy Spa and Yingling Flight. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Just a huge shout out to the sponsors who made this trip possible for us, and a shout out to Corks, who makes every Friday possible for us here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Check out the menu, corksfishandshrimp.com. Looking for a late lunch? Get over there on Government Street between Foster and Jefferson and check them out. If you got a watch party for the College World Series coming up tomorrow for the Tigers and Hogs, get Corks for the whole crew. Fantastic stuff over there. Tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you over there. I know the Medinka boys will appreciate it. Shout out to Corks, corksfishandshrimp.com. Got the odds here for ESPN Bet. I'm just outside the sportsbook here at the Ameristar in Council Bluffs. And got the odds. College World Series winner, Arkansas, only plus 175 for the Hogs coming back. They are the favorites, slightly above LSU. who is at plus 200. Those odds are going to swing massively tomorrow at about 9 o'clock, and we'll see what happens when that does occur. The next favorite is Coastal Carolina, as Joe mentioned, and that was before they went up 2-0 today, obviously, on Arizona. People really like that pitching staff from Coastal, and they just do a good job of putting pressure on pitchers. Obviously, the game one with Auburn was a gripping game. It was a heartbreaker for Auburn in the wee hours of the morning to lose like that late. But they really handled Auburn in that second game, especially with their pitching. And that's an impressive thing because Auburn had played really good baseball leading up to that. So Coastal's a good team, and obviously they're showing that early in game one here of the College World Series. Oregon State is next up at plus 700. And you got UCLA at plus 1,000, Arizona at plus 1,500, Louisville down at plus 2,000. This is just not a vintage Dan McDonnell team like the ones that came up here between 2012 and 2017 or so. It's just not one of the talented teams, the Brendan McKay teams. They were really, really good. They didn't have a lot of success in Omaha, but they were really, really good. This team did a great job in Nashville to win that regional, and because they did that, they were able to host a Super, and they just edged Miami in a really, really good Game 3 there in the Super. So a good team, a team that's hot at the right time, but a 15-15 ACC team in Louisville. Then Murray State's the longest shot at plus 4,000. I think the best odds play on the board is probably Oregon State at plus 700. I'm going to talk about Oregon State and Louisville in the second hour. I'm still debating whether or not I'm going to go across the river and go to that game just to watch as a fan, or if I want to stay here and watch the game in the sportsbook and watch golf highlights in the sportsbook and just hang out here at the Ameristar. I haven't decided yet. That's a decision that will be made after the show wraps up. But I think right now I'm leaning towards going to watch that. There's a lot of talent on that field between those two teams. You look at Oregon State with Dax Whitney on the mound. You look at Ava Arquette, who's going to be a top 20 pick. You look at Gavin Turley as well, who's just a stud. He was in the regional 2 years ago as a freshman for Oregon State. Now you fast forward 2 years, and he's their all-time home run leader in that program's history, which has had a lot of really good players over the last 15 years. So I think there's a lot of talent on that team. So if I'm going to take an odds play, it's probably plus 700 with Oregon State. If you look at the odds to advance out of your bracket, you're looking at LSU, according to this, at plus 115. Arkansas, a slight favorite at plus $1.05. And again, those odds will swing massively come game time tomorrow night at 6 o'clock here in Omaha. Incidentally, if you're listening now and you want to get some more coverage tomorrow, I will be right here in this seat outside the ESPN Bet Sportsbook at the Ameristar from 2 to 4, broadcasting live before LSU and Arkansas, and very, very much looking forward to it. Going to get a full guest list, going to get somebody from the Arkansas side of things, hoping to grab a national writer from Baseball America. And I'll give you kind of my final preview of LSU and Arkansas. We'll also have 2 games to react to that'll have gone final today. This is just an awesome event. It's an awesome time every year, and of course for us it's just tuned up a notch when LSU makes it. I think the only time that I'm really a little bit sour on the College World Series is if LSU loses in the Super. It just hasn't subsided enough when they crank it back up for Omaha. Last year, it was devastating to me from a fan perspective and from a professional perspective because it hurts content when LSU lost in the regional. But I had 2 weeks to decompress from the UNC loss, and then they cranked it up in the College World Series, and I was ready to roll. Now, unfortunately, as I've talked about many times, literally every single game that was played in the College World Series went the opposite way that I wanted it to go. A&M kept winning. Tennessee kept winning. The ACC lost every game against the SEC. Like, it was a disaster from my rooting interest, but I was invested because the scar from LSU losing 2 weeks prior had kind of healed a little bit. When you lose in that Super to Stony Brook or Coastal, like, can't sit here and watch this College World Series. But when they make it to the College World Series like they have now, it's just all eyes for me. And the sportsbook's starting to buzz here at the Ameristar with the action going. U.S. Open's being played. Big day for Sam Burns today. Phenomenal round for him, and he's going to be very much in the thick of this thing when he wakes up tomorrow. That golf course is brutally hard. He's done and can sit back and watch those guys hack away, and the best in the world are hacking away at Oakmont right now. So lots of great sports action, and we're thrilled to be bringing it to you here from the ESPN Bet Sportsbook in the Ameristar Casino and Hotel. I got a lot to do in hour number 2 and very much looking forward to it. We're going to chat at the top of the hour with Andrew Ellis from Inside Arkansas. I just talked to him, and he's ready to go to talk about these Hogs. I've got a thought on who LSU should start tomorrow. Again, I told you I think it's Kate Anderson, but I have a thought why Ianson might make some sense. And then a preview of tonight's game with 2 huge arms on the mound. Very, very much looking forward to that. So stick with us here on this Friday edition. We're brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Missed any of it? Catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. You can search Hunt Palmer Show, like, subscribe, rate, and view. We always appreciate that. We'll get you your national headlines.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.